Ven este río de gente. Hace minutos que pasa y no acaba. Es para entrar a la charla de Joe Hill. Y obviamente creo que no la hago. Llegué un poco tarde, se me pegaron las sábanas. Así que, caballeros.
Liked it so much. Well, I think that the longer a book is, the more important it is that the writer plunges the reader forward into menace and into suspense. You can't really waste any time when you've got a book that's 900 pages long, because the reader might read 30 pages, and if it feels like a lot of work, they start to look at the rest, and their heart will wilt, and they'll just think, oh, it's too much like homework.
Y Rey Dolor o King Sorrow puede parecer que es una única novela muy larga, efectivamente, pero yo en realidad lo concibo como 5 novelas cortas que tienen una estructura común, que cuentan un relato común que se extiende de una a otra. La primera sería como una especie de novela universitaria de ocultismo, donde 6 amigos universitarios tienen un vínculo que comparten porque les interesa todo lo que tiene que ver con el ocultismo y las artes oscuras, y por accidente invocan desde otra realidad a un dragón que llega a la nuestra, y ese dragón lo que hace es ayudarles a resolver un problema que tienen, pero ese problema es un problema inmediato que resuelven justo en ese instante. No son conscientes de que hay consecuencias y de que esa presencia se va a quedar, va a seguir acompañándoles, y que esa compañía de esa presencia de ese dragón implica que cada año le tienen que ofrecer un sacrificio humano, porque si no, los sacrificados van a ser uno de ellos. La segunda parte es una historia que es prácticamente un thriller, es una novela que transcurre eminentemente en el interior de un avión a unos 10.000 metros de altura, un avión donde hay un terrorista y un avión al que acompaña volando un dragón al que a su vez están atacando unos F-16 con misiles. La tercera parte presenta la historia de 2 de los protagonistas a los que secuestra un ejército privado para tratar de conseguir que esos 2 le cedan el control al ejército privado sobre lo que es ese dragón. La cuarta parte adquiere un tono más semejante al de Indiana Jones y transcurre principalmente en el interior de una cueva donde los protagonistas están buscando un arma para poder acabar con el Rey Dolor, con el dragón. Y en la quinta llegamos al clímax, es donde se produce el enfrentamiento definitivo. Yo creo que cada una de estas historias tiene que funcionar de manera independiente, pero a su vez tiene que servir como plataforma para catapultarte y hacerte llegar a la siguiente historia, que tengas ganas de seguir leyendo, porque como escritor de género, aburrir a tus lectores es la muerte.
Elmore Leonard and John E. McDonald and Patrick O'Brien, David Mitchell, these writers matter a lot to me, but they're candles, and my parents are spotlights. So much of what I understand about fiction was shaped by dinner time conversations, was shaped by their work, was shaped by listening to them argue, which they do all the time. It's been 54 years of listening to them bicker about fiction and poetry.
Sí, efectivamente. Es hora de abordar el elefante en la sala. Mi padre escribe. Mi padre es escritor y es un tipo que ha publicado un par de libros. Tiene potencial. Yo le animo a que siga porque creo que realmente, pues si se esfuerza y es constante, igual llega a algún sitio. Así que le animo a que no lo deje. Pero bueno, ya bromas aparte, cuando empecé mi carrera, a mí me generaba muchísima inseguridad firmar mis obras como Joseph King. Y por eso opté por el nombre de Joe Hill. Me aterraba que el público pensara que me publicaban porque mi padre es famoso. Sentía que para mi seguridad mental y para mi estabilidad mental tenía que saber que si vendía una historia, la vendía porque a la gente le gustaba. No porque alguien la publicara pensando que iba a sacar pasta rápida aprovechándose de un apellido famoso.
Robert Silverberg said, "You're an idiot. With science fiction, you just make it up, and nobody can tell you you're wrong."
Una vez en una mesa de la Worldcon compartía escenario seminario con Robert Silverberg y nos hicieron exactamente la misma pregunta. Y yo di poco más o menos la misma respuesta. Y Silverberg me dijo, pero no seas idiota, ¿no te das cuenta de que la ciencia ficción sale toda de tu imaginación? Te puedes inventar las cosas y no te vas a equivocar nunca, porque es algo que estás creando tú. Y dije, ya, sí, tienes razón, pero es que yo no me siento así. Creo que cuando escribo ciencia ficción lo que escribo es endeble, es mucho más frágil, porque no noto solidez en esos bloques que estoy utilizando para crear la historia, mientras que en el caso de la fantasía o de la novela histórica sí creo que esos bloques que uso son mucho más sólidos, más consistentes.
Es hora de almuerzo, pero la gente sigue haciendo cola para firmas. Allá al fondo, no sé si vamos a poder bien, Joe Walton y Joe Hill siguen firmando. Joe Hill ya se va por la tercera hora de firmas. Y bueno, eso.
So my journey with AI began a few years before ChatGPT was actually announced. And so I was actually meeting with a friend of mine who worked in the tech industry, and he started telling me about this conversation he was having. But this wasn't just any normal conversation. He was actually sharing about his personal life. He was asking it questions about his career. He was asking it questions about his relationship. And the strangest thing, and again, this is several years before ChatGPT, he was telling me it was with an AI. And so I was like, what? Like, is this a Twilight Zone moment? Where is this coming from? And he was telling me it is so surreal, but the future is changing. And I'm telling you right now, nothing's going to be the same. And so I always remember that conversation. Some of the things that he was wondering was, because the AI felt so real, what happens if that AI actually becomes conscious? And he wasn't saying the AI was conscious at that moment, but what he was talking about was, what if it does become conscious? And it brings up the whole Blade Runner dilemma, where if it becomes conscious and it has requirements, say, it says, hey, I would like X, Y, and Z. What do you do in that kind of situation, right? Or do you treat it in a position like a replicant, where you're like, do your duty, or you'll be deleted, right? Or exterminated, or retired, like in Blade Runner. So my view on AI until then had been pretty optimistic, because I grew up with the Ian M. Banks Culture series. So if you guys are familiar with that, the Culture is this very benevolent AI. And so they've created this huge galaxy, galactic empire, or I would say post-scarcity society, where everything is provided for. So no one hungers, right? Everyone lives in peace, there's a great harmony. And the biggest problem people face is boredom.
I normally just assume the book needs humor because it's very hard for me not to write something with humor in it. I get bored with myself very quickly otherwise.
Por lo general, lo que doy por sentado es que una historia necesita humor. El horror ya está presente. Si no le meto un poco de humor ya de buenas a primeras, me aburro con mucha rapidez.
Yes, the story sort of, it definitely drives it in that I usually have no idea what I'm doing. And until I'm about halfway through the book, and then I'm like, okay, now I know where this goes. If I am working for an editor who wants an outline, things go very badly for both of us.
Translation of this beautiful book. Time was in English. In Spanish, please buy it. It's a great translation. It's a beautiful book. It will make you cry at the end. A pleasure to be back here, as always, at Celsius. Sad. The moon in Luna, not to be the USA. I didn't want an American-centric moon. I wanted it to be much more diverse, much more interesting. So all the five families, all the five dragons are the Chinese, the Samoas from Ghana, the Quarters from Brazil. I've forgotten half of them.
There are lots of characters.
It's a long time ago. The Vorontsovs, and I've forgotten the last one. the bad guys. The bad guys are Australians.
Right.
Mackenzie's, yeah, because people really hate Australia. US, I wanted to have Asian and African voices because I'm a bit tired of hearing the US take on the world. For a while, it seemed to me that it's gone quiet. I mean, for a while, there was a lot of global science fiction voices, and it's gone quiet recently because now all we get are American voices talking about America, and that annoys me because science fiction is a global language or it is nothing at all, and that kind of annoys me a bit that we're not reading those Chinese writers now that we were reading maybe 5-10 years ago. You know, that there are lots of great Nigerian writers, but we're not reading them compared to American Nigerian writers. You know, that kind of, those global voices aren't, I've got serious. Science fiction is about all of us and all the different futures that we could be living. William Gibson had one of it, a slightly asinine line, which is, you know, that, you know, the future's here, it's not just evenly distributed, which in a sense it's true, but for me that meant it's about how different cultures, everyone has a different take on technology and what that future is going to be, and that interests me as a writer and how these things come together and conflict, because for me that's, you know, a story needs that kind of stuff. Called Boy with Accidental Dinosaur.
Great title.
Thank you.
Great title.
It took us a long time to get that. Titles either come at once or they don't come at all. It took us a lot. It was originally called Buckaroo Bronto, which is a pretty good title. Okay.
I prefer Boy with Accidental Dinosaur.
I have a book coming out. I have the Luna prequel called set 40 years before. If Luna is the godfather on the moon, this is Deadwood on the moon. Called Once Upon a Time on the Moon. Come on, that's a title. Yeah, they come up once, they don't come at all. And I've got another project, my retirement fund project.
I can say I started writing it as early as 1986 because I wrote a story that became sort of mutated into Revelation space. So it's a long time ago, and I wasn't really thinking cleverly about things like the Fermi paradox. So what is the Fermi paradox?
Empecé a escribir Espacio Revelación, la primera entrega de esta trilogía. Yo creo que puedo decir con sinceridad que empecé a escribirla en 1986, porque es cuando escribí una historia corta que ya estaba ambientada en ese universo, y empecé a dedicarle tiempo a concebirlo y a desarrollarlo. Y cuando empecé a hacer esta historia no es porque me las quisiera dar de listo y empezar a hablar y a resolver la paradoja Fermi, porque ¿qué es la paradoja Fermi? Enrico Fermi era un eminente físico que trabajó en el proyecto Manhattan, y es sabido que cuando hablaba con sus colegas en ocasiones les decía: pero vamos a ver, si hay tantísimas estrellas en una galaxia, y si hay tantísimas galaxias y hay tantos planetas que las pueblan, seguro que hay alguno en el que se den las condiciones idóneas para la vida. Así que, ¿dónde está esa vida? Porque el universo, tal y como está concebido, parece que lleva a la sensación de que tiene que haber algún lugar en el que se desarrolle la vida, en el que pueda surgir la vida inteligente. Y esa es la paradoja de Fermi, es decir, si hay esas condiciones, si el universo parece tendente a que haya condiciones para que se dé la vida e incluso la vida inteligente, ¿dónde están?
Published. I was trying to think about life in the universe, and one of the possible ways to think about the Fermi paradox is to say that maybe there is intelligent life out there in the universe, but it's rare, and the chances of two civilizations meeting is quite unlikely. So we're much more likely to encounter extinct civilizations than active ones. So that's kind of the premise of Revelation Space, and then that activates another question: is why do these galactic civilizations go extinct? And then you can write 3 books, 4 books, 5 books off that.